Good morning, CLC. I invite you now to take a nice, deep breath, breathing in this cool, calming air. And as you breathe out all stress and tension. Allow your shoulders to relax. Any anxiety or doubts or negativity you have, just let it go for now. Know that this is a safe space, a calming space, a vitalizing space. And if you feel so inclined, take another nice deep breath. Breathing in oxygen and breathing out all that no longer serves you. Allow your body to just relax. And allow your mind to be here now. Universal love enfolds me. Universal wisdom inspires me. Universal spirit enlightens me. Universal power encircles me. I am one, and all is well. As we begin this inner healing process, let me invite you to relax in quiet confidence, opening yourself to the miracle-working higher power. Now symbolize the unity of your thinking and feeling nature by touching your chest with your hand, and let my words act as your own for your own inner healing, acceptance, and receptivity. I acknowledge that there is a power, intelligence, and wisdom greater than my own. I am in the midst of it, and it is in the midst of me, sensitive and responsive to my every thought, word, action, and feeling. I now make this true for myself by saying aloud, I acknowledge. Acknowledging this higher power working through my life, I admit that I am personally responsible for solving my own problems while being guided and assisted by something greater than myself. As I am ready to surrender the conflicts of my ego to the wisdom of this infinite presence, I simply speak these words: I surrender. Knowing that forgiveness is the key to unconditional love and the feeling of heaven, I now unconditionally forgive anyone and everyone who has ever injured me in any way, real or imagined. And I now forgive myself for all of my mistaken judgments and their resulting actions. From my deepest level of understanding, I now say, I forgive. Realizing that I continually experience the effects of my own thinking, I now choose to allow this higher power to recreate me deeply, filling my mind with thoughts that are only positive, constructive, loving, and beautiful. I call upon this divine inflow by stating aloud, I choose. I now center upon that one special idea that I'm willing to accept as real for me in this coming week. Visualizing that idea as already acted upon and brought to pass. In seeing my idea become a fact of my experience, I enjoy the happiness and peace of my thought fulfilled and gratefully speak these words. I accept. Knowing that I have an everlasting place in the midst of the power that sustains all creation, as well as the support of all those around me, I allow myself to relax in the peace of fulfillment and gratitude and say, I release. Now, in my mind's eye, I envision the presence of someone near and dear to me. This can be a friend, a family member, a teacher or mentor, someone who has touched my life in deep and loving ways. Someone who may not be physically present in the room with me this morning. I turn toward that image in my mind's eye and say, I'm grateful for the good in your life. Now I open my eyes, turn to the world around me, and joyfully speak to anyone physically present in the room or virtually on this broadcast, and share in confidence and gratitude and saying, I'm grateful for the good in your lives.
I have some things to read to you today. We have a special guest speaker in the room. She's up here on the music stand. Some of you know I have written the Q&A column for Science Mind magazine, Guide for Spiritual Living. It's now called Guide for Spiritual Living, Science Mind magazine, but I've written it for 31 years. But long before I did, 90 years ago, there was a woman named Alberta Smith who fielded questions for the magazine. And I have invited Alberta Smith to share some thoughts with us today. She's going to kind of channel these through me. No, it's not really that extravagant. I'm going to read some Alberta Smith to you because this month is featuring women in New Thought, and what I decided, and there are a lot of them. There are a lot of them. I did a whole 3-month series on women teachers, women founders of New Thought a few years ago, and only got to 12 of them. And there are hundreds of prominent women over the last 140, 150 years who've taught in this New Thought world that we live in religious science and unity and divine science and independent teachings. And so what I thought I'd do this month, highlighting some women, is give you some you maybe didn't know about, including a few recent and current spiritual teachers. Well, Alberta Smith was an editor of Science Mind magazine, and she edited one of the editions of Ernest Holmes' Science Mind textbook. She wrote a lot on her own. She was a practitioner in the Los Angeles area. And she writes this piece I'm going to share with you here. I'm going to walk you through it line by line, give you a few lines of her, a few lines of me. We'll eat up the time that way. But it has to do with work, because this is what? Labor Day weekend. And I thank you, by the way, for being here on a holiday weekend. You have many other options when you fly, and you chose to be at Creative Life, and that's nice. We appreciate it. And I appreciate those of you in Tennessee and Michigan and Idaho, and also we have viewers in Alberta. Did you know that? Alberta Smith, so they're going to, really resonate to this today. Thank you. Thank you for being here. Okay, so about work. Over the last few months, I've been teaching about we need to know who we are. And we need to know that other people know who they are. Because when everybody knows who they are, they behave better. When everybody knows who they are, they get along better. When everybody knows who they are, they directly communicate their needs and wants. There's no passive-aggressive behavior. There's not even aggressive behavior. There's just a direct expression of, can you help me with this? Yes, no. Where do I turn for relief? Do I turn to you, to other humans? Perhaps. But first I turn within myself to the source of my own being, to the one life, the one mind, the one power that exists within me. That's the first place we should go. It reveals to me who I am. Back of all, as I said last week, all labels, all definitions, it reveals to me that back of all that is the great I am expressing as me. That there is one life, that life is spirit, that life is my life right now, and it's expressing as me, and in that I take my comfort, and in that I find my relief. And in that I get direction, and today is about meaning, so there I get meaning. I look within for meaning. If you want your work to be fun, it needs to have meaning. If you want your work to be successful, it needs to have meaning. It needs to have meaning that you decide it has, not meaning that's put on it by the culture or other people. You've got to decide that your work is powerful and effective, and it has meaning and purpose, and that it's doing some good in the long run. And if you feel that way, a number of amazing things will happen. One is that you'll face setbacks as learning opportunities. There'll be no failure. There'll be no permanent ending. You'll pick up and go on. When something doesn't work out, you'll say to yourself, well, now I know one more thing that doesn't work. And that's good information. And I don't have to try that again, or at least I don't have to try it under the same circumstances. I'll try something new and see what comes of that. And your work becomes fun, even joyous, and you can't wait to do it. And so others, perhaps watching you do this kind of work, will say, well, that doesn't look like work. With some taking some offense, you know. Well, that doesn't look like work. You look like you're having too much fun. Serena Williams out there on the tennis court, you look like you're having too much fun. And she did for all these years. Until she decided that something else in her life meant more to her right now. And so she decided to retire. The greatest athlete of this century, has just retired because she found some new meaning. You think there was pressure on her? All right, people say she's 40 years old, she's past her prime. Yeah, right. You know, she made it three levels into the Open. A 3-hour match, a 40-year-old person playing a 3-hour match against a highly ranked opponent. Do you think she had pressure, people coming to her and saying, you can't give up, you're a tennis player. This is what you do. She said, no, I am not what I do. I am more than what I do. I am me. I'm a mother. I'm a businesswoman. I have all kinds of interests. So the meaning shifted. Sometimes the meaning shifts and you go in a new direction. It freaks other people out. You'll find this with artists and musicians who don't necessarily leave the field. I was watching, I happened across a tribute concert to David Bowie from 2016, I think it was, when he left us. And they were doing a retrospective of his career and how, like, 4 different times he lost all his fans. Or this is what they said. The fans were like, what are you doing? You've turned to electronic music. That's not who you are. What are you doing? You've turned to rock and roll. That's, you know, and so he's getting all this grief from these fans while he's finding new fans. You know who he was true to? Himself. Which is why he'll be remembered as 1,000 years from now as this fabulous musician that he was. Well, this is how it works. If you follow your inner light, if you follow your inner guidance. All right, well, let's see what Alberta Smith has to say about this, because she's fielding a very direct question. Somebody writes into her and they're complaining about their job. They don't like their work. They're not making enough money. They're not being respected and challenged and so on. And bear in mind, this is in 1932 that she's responding to this. You might say, well, in 1932, people were lucky to have a job. So that was right at the height of the Depression. She says, having heard the complaints of the writer, she replies, "You will be caught in the picture just so long as you permit the conditions you mentioned to have weight in your mind." You will be caught in the picture just so long as you permit the conditions you mentioned to have weight in your mind. All right, let's pause there a minute. Hey, at this rate, we'll be out of here by 2 or 3 this afternoon. The thoughts are going to be in your mind, but they don't have to have weight. What gives them weight? Emotion gives them weight. Emotion gives them weight and causes them to become subconscious patterns, not just random observations. You and I are going to have all kinds of observations about things. You might say, well, I'm not being treated fairly here. Okay, that's a legitimate observation, and if you're not being treated fairly here, then that observation is something that's good for you to have. But you don't have to give it weight, because you start giving it weight and it's like, well, I'm not entitled to be treated well here. The universe doesn't treat me well. Nothing works anywhere for anybody, and it spins out of control. When it becomes burdensome emotionally, she's saying, lift your eyes unto the hills whence cometh your help. You must close your mental door to them all, these pictures that have this weight, and realize that the infinite spirit of substance is the very center of your life, and that no condition or circumstance can affect it. Well, that's easy for her to say. She's sitting behind a desk writing a magazine column. How can no circumstance affect this? Because there's a subjective reality and an objective reality. And the subjective reality always overcomes the objective reality, which is to say, things come into form, but it's thought that put them there. It's thought plus feeling that put them there. And once things come into form, they immediately begin to dissemble themselves, disintegrate back into pure potential, and it's thought with feeling that will usher in new forms to take their place. Everything that's seen is coming out of the unseen. Everything that's seen is coming out of the unseen. That sounds like a radical proposition until you think about it. Where were you before you were here? Where were you before you were born? Where was the body that you're sitting in right now before it grew up to where it is? Well, we don't know. But we do know it wasn't here. Before this building was here, there was nothing here but grass. And before the earth was here, there was nothing here but space. And everything comes out of the unseen. And it comes into the scene, and it lodges here a while, and it all redistributes itself, but it does so at staggered intervals. It doesn't all just come in and go away, you know, like poof. It's gradually moving in and out of form. And we spend a lot of time worrying about where's it going to go and what's going to come take its place, and less time focused on what am I bringing into form right now through the thoughts and feelings that I'm currently having. You know, we do this so much. We think about, well, 10 years from now, where do I want to be? Without noticing that right this moment, we're here. We're here doing this. And the next thought, the next idea that comes to us could be the one. Could be the one that changes everything. Could be the great gain that we make. Could be the great release that we undertake. The great forgiveness that we have. So we don't ignore the existence of the objective. We just don't give it what? Weight. We don't give it weight. We say, this too shall pass. Robert Schuller used to say something like that. He said, you'll notice in the Bible, it says, and it came to pass. He says, it never says, and it came to stay. So it came to pass, and it came to pass through. And here's another part of this that's mind-boggling, is that while something is happening, Like, for example, in a group such as we have here today, we're all in the room, we can all agree that we're here and that something's happening, but we're all having a unique experience of it. No two people, and if another person walks in there, they're going to have a different experience of it. The people watching at home are going to have a different experience of it. And that's the reason that we showed up in life, is to have this unique experience of things that nobody else is having. Or really nobody else could have, because by the time we have the experience, we've had so many other experiences that we fit it in amongst them in our expectations and in our attitudes and in our desires and so forth. So I mean, it's just like uniquely tailored to us. And that experience that we're having doing that is called co-creation. That's what co-creation is like back of it all, there's this great big, I don't know, machinery, you might think of it as being, that's generating all things in form. But you and I are streamlining it. You and I are tailoring it along specific lines for the purposes that we have, for the understandings that we have, and for the goals that we wish to manifest. Your work, she says, and she means this, your work, like your spiritual work, but she also means your work, you know, your job work. Your work lies wholly within yourself and should exclude all appearances on the objective. Your work lies wholly within yourself. I remind myself of that like 3 times a day, that my work is within me. I'll look at a situation, whoa, this needs, you know, rearranged furniture out here. No, my work is within me. My work is within me. My work, how do I feel? What do I think? My work is within me to do the work, to do the work, to do the spiritual work. And what she's suggesting to this person who wrote in is that there's a regular spiritual practice that you can undertake that will make all of this possible, make all of it even easy. A regular practice that's as regular as worry has been. Are you punctual with worry? You take time every day to worry. First thing before breakfast, and then your midday. You know, you might have like prayer stations with it. It's 5, 7, 9 times a day, round the clock. Whoop, time to worry. It's like taking a pill, you know. Why not use the same schedule with different information, where it's not garbage in, garbage out, but it's new information of an inspiring nature to take time regularly to do this. Know that which formerly made your decisions and kept you wholesome and happy is active at this moment. This person writing in said, you know, I used to like my life, but not so much anymore. What used to keep you happy is still active at this moment. Why isn't it leading the way? Because something else was given weight. We discount our own joy a lot of times. We'll say, well, you know, when I was young, I was happy, but I was kind of innocent and stupid. You know, I didn't know a lot of things. And now I'm older and wiser, and I've learned to be clever, and I've learned to distinguish, which is a dressed up formal way of saying judge. I've learned to judge everything here, you know? And so this makes me an adult. This makes me a responsible grown-up. I'm miserable most of the time, but I know what's going. Nobody's going to put anything over on me, you see. And we're around a lot of wise, clever, well-informed, miserable people out there in the world. They're beautiful people, they're godlings, they're wonderful, there's nothing intrinsically wrong with them, just like there isn't anything intrinsically wrong with any of us. But they sold off their joy. They sold off their joy for a sack of beans. They sold off, right? They traded it all in. And they said, it can't be like that. It can't be, I could go on and on about this, but it can't be like it was when I was a child, where everything was new and interesting and beautiful. And I hungered to know more about it. It can't be that simple. So I'm going to sell off that idea. You know, one time we talk about this a lot, it's around Christmas. Let's do Christmas in September for a minute, you know? If you were raised in the Christian tradition, in a Christian family, and you had Christmas, not all of us were, but if you were, and you see it around you, I mean, it's not like a secret. Everything is draped in it, you know, when it comes that time of year, right? But when you see this, you're like, oh man, this is going to cost me money. This is going to take some time. I may have to see some family members I'm not real excited about having to spend time with. The kids will be out of school, so they'll be around. And it's supposed to be all about them, and you know, but oh my gosh, the pressure, the weight of all of this. Okay, think about those children for a moment. Yours or somebody else's. Think about those children. They can't wait for this. They can't sleep at night. That whole visions of sugar plums thing, which by the way is candy. It's not a bowl of fruit. I found that out one Christmas. Anyway, put yourself in that mindset. Here's another example. Disney World, free product placement. Thank you. Make checks payable to Creative Life Spiritual Center. Disney World, this is going to cost us money. This is going to take some time, a lot of money. It's hot down, and the lines stretch around, and blah, 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 blah. And then ask the children how they feel about it, and they can't wait, and they can't sleep, okay? You know what else they're excited about? Going to the supermarket. You know what else they're excited about it? Anything. Virtually anything. Going outdoors, coming indoors, playing video games, right? It's whatever it is, they're excited about it. And you and I, in this grown-up way, we stand back and we think money, time, energy, I'd like a nap. But the child in us is still there. And I'm not saying you have to be all excited about every last thing that comes along. What I am saying is that the stuff that you really want to do, let the child in you lead the way rather than the jaded part of you that says, this will probably never work. I'll tell you a quick story. Years ago, I decided I wanted to teach science of mind, and I wanted to teach science of mind pretty much all the time. And I decided to do that, and you know what? I got to do it. And so when I get up here and I tell you that this stuff works, you can take my word for it, because like here I am doing this, thanks to you. You can take my word for it that when you tune out the people who will tell you, you can't do this. And I had plenty of people, well-meaning, lovely, fine people, friends of mine, tell me, you can't do it. What, are you out of your mind? You need to get to work, keep working in industry and make money and, you know, do this. And churches, this is actually, it's a center now, but it started out as a church. You can't really tell the difference unless you look real close. But this place started out with a handful of people around a kitchen table, and it was the kid in me that was just grooving on that. And that's, I don't know, that's kind of why it worked. And it's still working. And it will work for pretty much ever, as long as we want it to. Let the child in you lead the way. Okay, let's get back to what she has to say. So she says, know that which, I just read you this, but know that which formerly made your decisions and kept you wholesome and happy. Well, that which formerly made your decisions was the younger you, the more naive you, the more open and trusting you, and that still exists in you. Keep yourself in this impregnable mental stronghold, and no outward conflict can affect you. After all, she says, making a decision is only making a choice. Now, I stuck on that for a minute, and I thought, you know, we talk about making decisions. You need to make a decision, right? We say to other people, or ourselves, mostly other people, you need to make a decision. Are you going to college or not going to college? Are you going to marry this person or not marry this person? You need to make a decision. And it seems so, what? Weighty. And we want to lift some of the weight out. She says here, a decision's just a choice. Well, that's a whole lot lighter word, isn't it? Just make a choice. You do, you don't. And every choice leads to a different set of outcomes. But every choice can be unmade. You can, as Course in Miracles puts it, choose once again. I decided not to do this, and now I've changed my mind, decided to do this other thing. Other people it might rock their world for you to make a choice that's different than the choice you made before, but so what? Because they've rocked your world with their choices, and maybe what we're here to do is rock each other's world with new choices. You know. So you make a choice, and then you make another choice after that, you make another choice, and you see where it all leads. Choose to believe that no matter what the appearance may be to the contrary, you occupy and are protected in your own impregnable point of good, wherein right action alone can obtain. She's writing like 90 years ago. You know. You occupy and are protected in. You occupy and are protected in your own point of good. You occupy your own point of good as the place in creation as you that is becoming more completely aware of its own divinity. The issue, as we often discuss here, is not that we're separated from God. That's never been the issue. Nobody's separated from God. Not a soul. I don't care who they are. I don't care who jumps to mind as a possible exception. Nobody is separated from God. That's not the problem. The problem is we think we are. We feel we are. Those others think they are, feel they are. How do you know if somebody feels separated from God? They're scared. How do you know if they're scared? That's a little more complicated. Sometimes because they appear scared. Sometimes because they appear angry. Sometimes because they appear sullen. Sometimes distracted. Sometimes whatever. Sometimes manic. Sometimes so happy they're over the top that you get a sense that there's something inside they're really running away from. But our job is not to judge whether other people feel separated from God at all. And I want that really clear. This is not what our practitioners do. This is not anything. We don't size you up. You know, I think you're about 80% feeling separated from God, from your source. And I can fix that. It'll be a lower rate for you than if it was 60%. You know. Act today.
Wouldn't it be a higher rate if they were 80 rather than 60?
You're absolutely right. I was thinking 80% connected. I was picturing it. See, this is good. This is, yeah, you should manage the math of all this. Yeah, the more separated you are, I suppose the higher rate it would be. But anyway, the whole thing's nonsense from beginning to end. Because our job is not to figure out what's wrong with other people. There are plenty of people doing that. They're experts doing that, and God bless them, you know, but our job is not to figure. Our job is to look within the self and see, do I feel connected to my source right now? And if not, why not? And if I'm scared, I run to that part of me that's scared, and I sit it down and I say, talk to me, what's bothering you? What's between you and feeling connected to your source? Run to that part of yourself. Do not walk. Run to it. And sit it down and ask it what it has to say. And in that way, see, we draw back into our power that we realize, wow, it is right here. The one life, the one power, the one presence, it is right here where I stand. Know that divine intelligence within you compels you by your full cooperation to say and do the right thing at the right time and rest your case in God, the all-good. Wow. You know, it could all boil down to that. Know that divine intelligence within you compels you by your own cooperation. Compels you not outside your own cooperation. Is not moving you around like a pawn, but within your own cooperation. Compels you to say and do the right thing at the right time. That's great. How do you give it your own cooperation? You make a choice, also known as a decision, but we've decided to call them choices. So you make a choice about how you want things to work out. You hand it off to this divine intelligence or spiritual law or subconscious mind or great subjective or whatever you want to call it, but this thing that receives your thought and acts upon it, you hand it off to that, and it begins to compel you with your full cooperation. Sometimes it compels you with your full cooperation when you've forgotten you gave it your full cooperation. Have you ever had that happen? You announce to yourself, I'm going to do this great thing. And then it's lunchtime, and then it's tomorrow, and then it's next week, and then it's a month from now. And a month from now, you get this kind of swift kick that says, you remember that great thing you were going to do? Bah! Here it is. Off you go. Here is this thing. I talk about this a lot, and there are many, many examples one could give, but the one that I always kind of nest in is the one about, say, I think I'd like to go out for the play. So we have a show coming up, right? Around Halloween. Somebody says, I think I'd like to be in a play. So I'm going to show up at the audition, I'm going to cold read what they give me, I'm going to do my best, and the next thing you know, you get chosen for the part. And the next thing you know, you get a script to learn, and the next thing you know, you got rehearsals, and then dress, and then opening night, and then you're backstage, and you're thinking, I want to die. How did I get myself into this? Because you chose. You chose. And you handed off the choice, and the choice said, great, and you never undid it. You never undid it. So it went off, and it met with others, and it met with the producer and the director and the casting director and all the rest of them, and they pulled it all together, and boom, here you are, okay? Now, if you're not an actor, if that example leaves you cold, you can still see where it leads. People will say, I want the promotion at work. When you get I love this, but when you get promoted at work, you get promoted into doing something you don't know how to do. You've been watching somebody else do it. You may know some of it, what, about 80%? Yeah, about how to do it, but it's not your job until now it is. And now you have and you were a star at the thing you knew how to do well. And now there's this new responsibility, and you know, you're a novice again. You have to learn. Well, that's how life is. And maybe the greatest example of all is you tell somebody you love them, and they say, I love you back. And then you're like, oh my God, and because this has been handed off into spiritual law, into spiritual principle, to take it and run with it. So things happen along the way. And we will be having Advanced Consciousness Studies class starting here soon, which is the new name for the first year of practitioner training. Advanced, doesn't that sound? Advanced Consciousness Studies, or ACS, okay? And it's starting online around the same time as ours here with Reverend Lisa is starting. So I was talking to some of those students who are going into from elsewhere who are going into the online one, pointing out that when you put out to the universe that you wish to be a spiritual leader or teacher, as we call them, a practitioner, somebody who meets with clients and does prayer work and all the rest of this, you have just signed up for strict observance without knowing it, which is to say that your contract with the universe has been such now that the time period between when you affirm a thing and it comes rolling into your life, that time period collapses. So rather than think it months, years, whatever, finally, no, boom. For good or ill. Have a judgment, boom, there it is. There's the sorrow. There's the pain, right then. Offer a blessing, offer a gift to the world, there's the joy right there. Time just collapses. When you believe and act like you believe that there is a power that receives the direct impress of your thought and acts upon it, then it's free to receive the impress and act upon it immediately. So, we're finishing up with Alberta Smith today. So we're knowing that this divine intelligence within us is compelling us by our full cooperation, never without our cooperation, to say and do the right thing at the right time. Wouldn't that be easy? Instead, do you ever say a bunch of stuff and then, oh man, I wish the person's out of sight, I wish I'd said this, or the words come out kind of funny, or we miscommunicate, or because we're all about, are you going to like me after this, or what do you think of this, or we're interpreting what we're not listening to them, we're waiting to speak. Franny Leibowitz writes about that. Then wait, she says. Then wait, watchfully and with certainty. Avenues will open automatically. Once you convince yourself it is true, for there is no obstruction to the harmonious action of your life if you set in motion definite laws which, when used and understood, produce definite results. Nice long sentence there. Avenues will open automatically once you convince yourself it is true. Again, that seems too easy. Because we thought we have to pry these avenues open. We have to convince people and persuade people and sell the world on this idea of who we are. We have to sell ourselves at our job, in our work, and it's simpler than that. When you believe in yourself, when you believe in the I am that's having this experience of itself by means of you, avenues open automatically. The world is eager for your discovery, your invention, your gift. If you want to start a company and employ people, people are eager to be employed by you. If you want to start a company and provide a service or product, people are eager to trade in that service or product. You might not know who they are. You might do all kinds of demographic research on whether or not this thing is going to be acceptable to anybody, and it might turn up flat. I saw this thing the other day, blew my mind. Did I tell you about this? Toothpaste. There's now at least 2 companies doing this kind of thing. Ever since I was a little kid, and long before then, you get a tube of toothpaste, right? And you squeeze the toothpaste out, and on the TV commercials, they show you squeezing out this big old long caterpillar-looking thing of toothpaste onto the toothbrush, which is like 5 times more than you need, right? You kind of gag on it, Plus, and then you get the little key. You used to have the little key thing that you roll the tube up with, and then when the tube of toothpaste is empty, you got an empty tube, which you go poof in the trash, right? And so are the neighbors, and so is everybody else in the city, and there are millions of these little tubes of toothpaste getting thrown in the ocean, which have created their own island between California and Hawaii, along with a lot of other junk, right? And there's several other reasons why toothpaste is dumb, but anyway, that's, But it's toothpaste and you need it, and it's a good thing. Well, there are 2 different companies that I've seen advertising now. They've come up with a toothpaste pill. What? See, whoa, does not compute, paradigm busting, can't happen, but listen, I should get commissions from them too, but it's a little white tablet. You put it in your mouth and it turns into toothpaste. Mixes with your spit, and it turns into toothpaste. Just the right amount of toothpaste. And it has fluoride and it has whatever else toothpaste needs to have in it. It's been approved by dentists and stuff, okay? And it comes in a little tin, and inside the little tin it's in a little bag. And you can buy more little bags of the little pills to put in the little tin, so you never even need to recycle the little tin. The little tin will last basically till the end of time, okay? There's no waste to this whatsoever. It's the perfectly proportioned amount of toothpaste, and it gets your teeth clean, and it doesn't get thrown in the ocean. And it's like, this is brilliant. Why did nobody think of this? But I bet the reaction that they got when they first launched it was what I heard the sound one of you make, which is, what? That's crazy talk. A light bulb? That's crazy talk. And yet, somebody believed it enough that I found out about it, and I'm no toothpaste expert. I didn't go looking for this information, okay? It crossed my field of vision on my cable channel or whatever, and I'm like, okay, so somebody's gotten this idea far enough that it made it to me, and now it's made it to you, you see? So somebody out there is so persuaded in the value of this idea that it's turned into a meme. And it's now traveling through each of us out into the world. I don't find a hole in it. I actually mentioned this to a dentist. And the dentist said, well, as you'd expect a dentist to say, I'd have to see what's in it. I would want a dentist to say that rather than, sure, whatever. This is the power of a made-up mind, as Reverend Ike used to call it. This is the power of consciousness unfolding, where you believe in an idea so strongly that it begins to take root and grow. Close with this. She says, be steady, persistent, and faithful in your work, and you will win. Be steady, persistent, and faithful in your work, and you will win. Some days chicken, some days feathers, right? Some ups, downs, setbacks, movement. Steady, persistent, and you will win. And what will you win? You'll win a feeling of yes. You'll win a feeling of being at home in the universe just as you are. You win a feeling of being a powerful, creative being, a co-creator with the infinite. Let's know together now this idea that there is one life, one power, one presence. Call it God, call it Spirit, call it the ultimate ground of all being, call it that which is, call it Tatvamasi, call it whatever you wish. But call it. Do call it. Call it up from within yourself as I speak this word, knowing that this one life, one mind, one intelligence is right where I am, right where you are, right where each one of us is, doing that which ought to be done by us. Another fine spiritual teacher says there is good for you and you ought to have it. I claim now that we do have it by the acceptance of our spiritual nature as co-creators. I know that into our minds now there jump ideas, possibilities, excursions and adventures, discoveries, explorations, within and without. There's a new way to solve old problems. There are old ways to solve new ones. There is a way. Whatever the case, whatever the apparent impediment, there is a way. And how we know there is a way is that we are in that way. Because we are the ones who are seeing and dealing with the world as it is. So it's our world to deal with. Anything that crosses our field of vision is our opportunity to facilitate healing. And healing is the return to the spirit of wholeness, such as the child mind has, of knowing that all is well, all is secure, all is peaceful, and all is fun. Something in us has not forgotten that, no matter what the storms of life might provide. So from that simple, sweet, trusting place of knowing within, I speak this word, knowing it is done, in deepest gratitude for this being so. I release it now into law, calling it done. And so it is.
For everyone else, thank you for returning. We love to see your smiling faces as well. And in addition to your presence, your love, your energy, we also want to thank you for all of your monetary gifts and donations that you give to us. We are so grateful for everything that we receive from you guys. No matter how big or how small, we make sure that we take that gift in with care and utilize it to the best of our ability so we can provide the best service for you as well as our community. And so with that, I invite you now to say with me, divine love, through me, blesses and multiplies all the good I am and have, all the good I give and receive. And so it is. I am prosperous now, and so it is. I'm sorry, my brain just kind of went out for a minute. And the reason why my brain went out for a minute, let me just say this, is because I forgot to mention, if you are not getting the weekly emails, because everything that I just said and so much more is included in the email, if you're not getting it, we will have a link in chat in just a minute in Constant Contacts. If you're in the room, you can sign up in the vestibule. There's a book. You just need to write your name and your email address, and we'll make sure you start receiving those so you know about all the classes, activities, and so much more.
And so I'm going to close you out and send you on your way, although I'm hoping that I'm just sending you to the connection hour. But what I wanted to do is offer you a piece of advice, because Reverend Jesse talked about spiritual practice. I don't want you to think about spiritual practice as an obligation. I don't want you to think about it as something else to do, okay? What I would like you to do is find something that you're already doing that might be kind of mindless and put your spiritual practice there. I will give you an example. Washing dishes. I mean hand washing, or loading the dishwasher. You know, if it's something that takes you a minute, something where you might take that time to worry, or you might take that time to not think about anything. That would be a great place to insert a little extra spiritual practice. So what he was talking about today, what Alberta Smith was talking about today, find those little places in your day that already exist and just insert that little spiritual practice. And then that way your spiritual practice does not become one more thing to check off, one more obligation. And you will find that you actually have a lot more space in your day for that kind of connection than you thought you did. That was inspired by my reading today and listening to him. And now I turned up on his doorstep in 2005. Do you want to know why I still come back? Because he starts talking about toothpaste. And our immediate, I know everybody's response, and was mine, and I'm a throwback. Remember when I first turned up here and you would start to say things and I would do the Scooby-Doo? That's exactly what I did when you started talking about toothpaste. I'm like, where is he going with this? This is why I keep coming back. And I hope to one day be a quarter as good as he is. Yeah, he's over here turning red. It's great. So, in knowing that we are headed into the cool weather, the fall weather, we've been through our first fall harvest, and we're headed into our second harvest. That is the energy that I want you to think about right now. So know with me that there is one life, one power, one presence, one love. And each and every one of us are that divine channel through which that life is lived, through which that love moves into this world. So as we look at the changing of the temperatures and the changing of the weather, and as we move into fall, we have done the spring planting, we have done the summer nurturing, and we are moving into the reaping what we have sown and preparing for the next. I am knowing that your harvest is bountiful, that everything is coming up roses, It is big. It is beautiful. It is exactly what you desired. And as you harvest it and prepare for the next planting, remember that we are headed into a rest season. Take some time to rest, especially in the harvest season, because harvest is a whole lot of hard work. So I know that you, as divine beings, as divine channels of love, make that time to rest, to find those spots for spiritual practice, to find all of those wonderful places to bring that love in. We are creating a world that works for everyone, and each and every one of us is vitally important to that love, to that world. We know who we are. And when we know who we are, we give permission to other people to be who they are. And I am grateful for this knowing. I am grateful for this teaching. I am grateful for this place, for these people, for our ministers, for our practitioners, for our musicians, for each and every one of you bright and brilliant lights who decided to come out and sit with us today. And I am grateful for a world that works for everyone. And I know, even as I speak these words, that love is moving in this world in divine and unexpected ways. And so it is.
Say with me now, something wonderful is happening through me.
Something wonderful is happening through me.
I feel it in my body.
I feel it in my body.
I feel it in my mind.
I feel it in my mind.
I feel it in everything I am.
I feel it in everything I
I
am.
choose it.
I choose
I
it.
trust it.
I trust
I
it.
use it.
I use it.
And what else? I love
Love
it.
it.
And so it is.
And so it is.
Thank you all.